Alright people, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way you'll know when I upload the next video and you'll be supporting my channel. Follow me on Twitter. Every time I upload a new video, I'll be tweeting. Horizon Chance Momosuji reaction. This is Conquest of India, Historical Paradox, Extra History Part 1 by the channel Extra Credits. Conquest of India, Historical Paradox of the Ages. Find out why historians can't get enough of analysis of this historical event as India's king becomes a lazy, chain-smoking British playboy. Yeah, I think, I react to, Conquest of India from Armchair Historian. I think I did that, right? Yeah, why was it so easier for something like that, some video like that, I don't know. So this is, I guess, one of the newer videos from Extra Credits, October 23rd this year. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more, I guess. Check out other reaction I did, there's a link in the description. Check out the cards, in here. Let's watch it.
Delhi, India, Coronation Park, New Year's Day, 1903. It's the largest and most expensive coronation ceremony in modern history. The Delhi Durbar, the Mughal Empire's assembly, is reconvening to proclaim the ascension of a new emperor. Planning this took a full year. The ceremony's attended by nearly 200,000 people and kicks off 2 weeks of additional rituals and celebrations. And to accommodate the festivities, a humongous temporary tent city has been set up outside Delhi. It features electricity, telephone lines, sanitation, a hospital, a rail line, a courthouse, a police force, an art museum, a military parade ground, stores, dance halls, bandstands, polo grounds, and a post office that only uses commemorative Durbar stamps. Oh geez, I hope they didn't forget anything. As for the new Emperor of India, he will be delivered to the ceremony on a golden howdah, atop an elephant with candelabras attached to its tusks.
Which
so
emperor?
Safe to say, everyone who was anyone in the empire would be at this event, except the emperor himself.
Okay. Which emperor?
Thanks so much to CuriosityStream for helping us share today's historical tale. Who did this new emperor think he was? I mean, what kind of person would duck out of a huge coronation, not to mention leave their extravagant MMO mount hanging? What if I told you the new emperor wasn't from the subcontinent at all? Heck, not even from Asia, but instead from a rainy island over 4,000 miles away. And what if I told you he was also not a great warrior, but instead a lazy playboy who chain-smoked his way to an early grave? Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, consider this your first lesson in the complicated, tragic, and paradoxical history of the British conquest of India. Now, this is an incredibly popular topic, but what really makes it interesting is the fact that it's popular not only with average people, but also professional historians. See, usually the professionals in this field thumb their noses at popular historical topics because they've been written about to death. So there's not much room for original research or writing. But with the conquest of India, things are different. Here's a topic that's so complicated and nuanced.
Yeah, let's just say, I don't know who said that, but basically if certain topic is not finished, right? Like discovery of that topic is not finished, then there'll be many books on it, right? I mean, if you go to some bookshelf and find a book of physics, you won't find many books because it's just few books. That's it. There you go, physics. No new discovery has happened yet. There you go. That's the fucking physics, right? If you go find a book on anything else, right, a topic like psychology or something, there'll be a million books because it's constantly evolving. We're learning new things every day, right? So if there are many books on Conquest of India, which means historians can't agree on certain things, right? And there is always a new discovery, new I guess understanding of things, and new books comes out, and people's version of the book comes out because nobody agreed on anything.
That it's impossible to develop an authoritative text about. Not to mention this event has something that all historians love: a historical paradox, an absurd or contradictory event that defies expectations. Now, an armchair historian might say,
well, how can we have a historical paradox when we already know how history unfolded, eh? Case closed, sir.
Au contraire, armchair, because historians spend a good deal of their time thinking about contingency in the past. Or to put it another way, how things might have gone differently. Because thinking about contingency helps historians understand causality. What were the truly important people, events, and things that led us to where we are now? But with a
Did you take a jab at armchair historian there? It feels like it, right? I'm pretty sure it feels like it. Amjad Stone recently made, I think, in past year, and also I think there was a recent video on Conquest of India or something like that. So Diddy just took a jab at him.
Historical paradox. You have an outcome that doesn't match the events leading up to that point. Kinda like with an upset in sports. Okay, for a completely random and in no way pointed example, let's say your soccer team is up 3-0 going into the second half of the Champion League final in Istanbul. You'd expect to win, right? You'd be so confident, in fact, that you would be left in utter disbelief if in the end, your team lost. That's the kind of feel a historical paradox leaves you with. Sorry, Milan. And historical paradoxes draw people in, including professors, precisely because of their unfathomable nature. And with the conquest of India, we have brilliant historians who have dedicated their lives to understanding this one event and who often end up with incomplete answers. Nothing ever seems settled with the history of
This is basically a scientific argument that every major scientists go through, right? I mean, lots of scientific philosophers just talk about this. Like, when you know something, you just come to a point where you just agree or this is acceptable and you just move on. You can't know anything for 100% sure, right? Even in science, when you're measuring something, right? You can't accurately measure something. There's always, you come to a point and you agree that this is good enough and just move on. Because if you measure, say, 10 centimeter, what the fuck does that mean? Did you measure the, 10 centimeters line and how much thickness that line has? And if you just keep doing that, there is no end to it. So you can't really measure something, right, accurately. Like let's say if you're trying to measure a country, right, which is coastline is not straight, right, it's, jaggedy. If you scale, if you put it on a map and come up with an answer, if you scale, make that map a bit bigger with different scale, now you have more details. So the kilometers or whatever you're measuring in miles would be different. So it's like that. You come to agreement by measuring certain historical events. You saw some letters here and there. You saw some accounts here and there, and you just come to a certain conclusion. But everything has an asterisk on top, like how CGP Grey like to say, right? So if you have many different accounts of different things, and it is, I guess, a bit confusing. But certain people come to agreement that this is good enough for us, so this is the history. But then again, somebody could come along, check other records that they have, right? Check how things happen and come up with their own conclusion. That would be a bit different too. So, yes, certain things, historical people can agree on certain things. But then again, there could be a real debate on it because you weren't there. All the people who are basically just right now alive and just recording things were not there. It was 1600s. So obviously there are many historical events where people are historians, expert historians are fighting about, and all the expert historians, there's different take on it. I think CGP Grey said in his latest video, right, about certain, what was it, historian, or I don't know who that was, that one historian was, said one thing, second historian said another thing, third historian cried or something like that because it's such a hot topic.
of the conquest, and that helps to drive more interest and more interpretations. Given all this, we're not even going to pretend to offer you a definitive version of the conquest of India. What we will do, though, is give you an introduction to the complex, decades-long process that affected billions of lives across multiple continents and 3 centuries, in hopes it inspires you to do more paradoxical digging of your own. So, let's start by talking about the historical paradox at the heart of the conquest. The idea that drives public interest and leads historians to dedicate their lives to this topic. How did the entire subcontinent of India become beholden to the rule of Britain, a comparatively tiny island off the coast of Europe, for nearly 2 centuries?
Oh, wait a minute.
The land of hundreds of millions of people come to be controlled by a preposterously small number of British administrators, at a ratio of 1 colonial officer for every 250,000 Indians. And how did a technologically advanced, culturally influential, and militarily successful society end up throwing the party of the century for an idle foreign emperor who didn't even bother to show up?
How is this a paradox? Britain's conquest of India was inevitable. They had more money, better technology, more know-how, and nastier diseases.
Oh, I totally hear you, Army. That certainly is a common explanation for the conquest of India, and it's one you often see applied, rightly or wrongly, to histories of other European empires. But here, that explanation simply runs against the evidence. Because when regular contact between Britain and India began at the start of the 17th century, their roles were very much reversed. India was the technologically advanced, wealthy, cosmopolitan empire with diseases known for killing your.
India was technologically advanced. Really? I mean, did India had all the? I mean, come on. India didn't have railroads, things like that. I mean, this is crucial, right? Railroads drive your economy forward, so even in military use, I guess. I don't know. They had weapons, telephones. Really? I'm pretty sure England had at the time the scientists and innovation were high, right? Or is that a false information? I don't know. That's what I've been told every time. Even the army, like, why is he taking jab at armchair story like that?
Europeans, while Britain was the provincial, insignificant, comparatively impoverished backwater. Plus, in
Come on, really?
1600, the English Empire only included Wales and parts of Ireland. In fact, the English state barely survived the 16th century, and quite possibly would have been destroyed by the Spanish Armada, if not for a fortuitous storm. Not only were the English dwarfed at this time by imperial powers like Spain and France, but they'd often had trouble competing against even small European states like Portugal and the Dutch Republic. By the time the fabled East India Company established its first trading post in India in 1618, the Portuguese had been there for over a century, while the Dutch had established an impressive trade network based
Yeah.
out of Indonesia. So when it came to empire building in the early modern era, the English were very much and also ran of imperial powers. In contrast, India was ruled at
Oh, I
the time-
definitely know that as in a global power before India, Britain were not that big compared to the other European powers. France, Spain, Dutch, basically they were really a powerhouse, while Britain was just getting its grip on European colonization, I guess. And India really give them the real powerhouse, because I mean India is one of the rich places for stuff to be grown, I guess, commodities. It's a big ass country. So so when India basically British took over the entire country, it was a surprise. I'm pretty sure nobody thought that they could do that. Even Dutch and everybody had just ports there, country had certain places there to do the trading and things. I'm pretty sure nobody thought, what if we took over entire India? Nobody even thought of that. So when British did that, everybody was probably stunned. But yeah, that definitely helped them very much.
time by the Mughal Empire, led by the descendants of the great Mongol empires of the Middle Ages. Beginning with Emperor Babur in
Babur.
1525, they established a near-complete rule over the subcontinent by 1600. While the English were trying to keep the colonists from starving in Jamestown and going through a civil war at home, the Mughal Empire determined the lives of 180 million people, or roughly 20% of the world's population at the time. They maintained huge armies made up of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, with anything equivalent not being seen in Europe until the 19th century. Their soldiers were armed with the latest flintlock muskets, muzzle-loading cannons, and possessed some of the best cavalry in the world.
Really?
Plus, and I cannot stress this enough, they had totally awesome armored
Oh,
elements.
yeah.
The
The-
Mughals
the-
also
oh,
made use of a sophisticated
Oh, war elephants. I mean, everybody, ever came near India, right? Always got stunned by the just psychological effect of war elephants, right? I mean, that is true. They had flintlocks and cannons? How the fuck I don't know about this? Holy shit. That is surprising. Babur had that. So Babur afterwards, Akbar, all of them had this weapon, huh? So I don't know. I guess some only thing I can think of now why Britain took over, India. Obviously, extra credits will tell us here. There's probably 4-part series. But if I were to guess now, that it would be, I don't know, certain events led, certain type of disdains between the rulers. Britain basically capitalized on that, divide and conquer mentality, and just how those daily soap drama serials are, right? Just created some kind of a crack in between people and just pick them off one by one. I guess that's the only thing makes sense, because before I just had this vision that Britain was much technological advanced than India. Like India didn't even stood chance, but apparently that's not the case.
administrative structure that drew power and wealth from land revenues. And through this structure, even petty nobles enjoyed a lifestyle many more times luxurious than the English monarch. And this is
that's
especially
true.
impressive when you realize that the Mughal emperors managed this system despite the fact that their kingdom was made up of an incredibly diverse collection of ethnicities, languages, and competing religious beliefs. By contrast, if you want to know how the European monarchs of the time dealt with religious differences, well, our 30 Years' War series can fill you in on that.
That is surprising. India having lots of population of Hindus basically, while Mughals being Muslims, they are controlling India. Is commendable if anything. Like they were able to do that. Otherwise, that would be really hard to do. But yeah, Mughals were really strong in India. Babur then Akbar.
So not only were the Mughals more successful than the Europeans, but their demographics meant they were playing on hard mode as well. True, the Mughals never tried to expand their empire overseas, but why leave home when you've already got all the good stuff? I mean, what drew Europeans to India in the first place wasn't a desire for conquest or to project strength, but rather a desperation for Indian commodities like
Yeah.
pearls, gems, spices, silks,
Riches.
and manufactured cloth. The early European trading posts in India weren't signs of Mughal weakness, but signals of strength. We don't come to you, the Mughals basically declared. You come to us. European traders
Yeah.
humbly petitioned Mughal emperors for permission to open fledgling trading ports along the coastline. But even successful European merchants had trouble finding any goods that Indians were willing to trade for, apart from gold and silver from the New World. And of all of these pitiful European traders begging the Mughals for access to their markets, the English at the time were unquestionably the most pathetic of the bunch. Far from being inevitable,
man.
from the perspective of the 17th century, the British conquest of India was more like outlandish speculative fiction, like Planet of the Apes outlandish. And yet, it happened. But as you'll find out next week, the how and the why of that process is just as perplexing as the premise. But you know what is
Come on, man. You're painting a picture that I have no idea about. Holy shit, that's how things happened? I can't believe I'm hearing a count of how the events happened, different than any other videos I've seen. And extra credits, extra history. Obviously, this is a very respected channel. I mean, they probably did many deep research onto this one. I don't know. I mean, everybody can have their version, but I'm pretty sure he's not just making this shit up. They had guns and everything, right? I mean, they had, all the monopoly at the point. Damn. So British basically, slowly took up, local places, right? Took apart local rulers one by one. Even in the, armchair historian video, I said that, every local ruler was scared, and they slowly, basically, British East India Company slowly took them apart, because East India Company and Britain at the point was really powerful. So every local ruler was scared. But apparently that's not the case, right? Local rulers were well equipped. So they have no reason to be scared of British at that point. But yeah, I mean, Maratha Empire was, growing, I guess. So what happened was Mughals versus Marathas and other small empires here and there rose up, right? Guerrilla warfare here and there. I think that weakened India. If it has stayed Mughal Empire throughout without any Marathas or anybody rising up, I guess it would have been hard for Britain to take everybody apart. But I'm pretty sure that would be the case. But yeah, this was surprising that India had lots of technologically advanced resources. I didn't know that. Alright, people, that was Conquest of India, Historical Paradox by the channel Extra Credits. Being an Indian, I'm getting surprised by this, so it's I don't claim to know every history, but come on, this is not general knowledge even here. So yeah, it's surprising. Right, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cards, check out the ink cards, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Wait a minute, is there anything else? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just, yeah. Yeah, people, and also go to curiositystream.com/extra credits and support this channel. Holy shit, this is a good historical channel. Definitely support this one. And yeah, I'll see you next time.